The valve screamed under his hands. 700 psi and rising. One wrong turn, and Station 47 would vanish in sudden fire. Frank Danner's fingers shook against burning metal. The ceiling groaned. Behind him, a young engineer shouted his name through smoke. He had seconds to choose. Close the main line and save the building, or run, and let everyone inside become ash. A memory flared, long veil, fire, a choice no one should carry. He pressed his ear to the wheel, hunting the rhythm only he could hear. Pressure spiked red. The pipes howled. Frank closed his eyes, found the beat, and turned. How did a forgotten volunteer become the only one who could save them? It began 3 days earlier. The hum of overhead lights mixed with a soft hiss of steam. Station 47 slept, but one man stayed awake. Frank Danner crouched beside an old brass valve, his ear against cold metal. A dry, hungry whine lived inside the pipe. He found it like a musician finds pitch in a noisy room. Steel speaks when you stop trying to make it shout. His fingers traced the valve, and his hand trembled once. Not from age. From a memory he kept locked behind his ribs. Footsteps rang across concrete. Lieutenant Mason Hale appeared with coffee and a checklist. Still counseling the plumbing, Frank? Frank didn't look up. Line 6 is bleeding air, he said. You'll lose flow if it keeps up. Hale tapped the glass console and let the green lights brag. Sensors disagree. We're perfect. Frank stood, wiping oil onto a folded rag. I hear a system humming too fast. Hale lowered his tone, curiosity flickering beneath the smirk. I heard you used to be somebody, Danner. Back before I learned machines never forgive lazy hands, Frank said. The words hung between them like smoke. Hale shifted, then turned away. From the next bay came a burst of laughter. 2 rookies strode by, boots loud. The museum pieces whispering to his relics again. Frank returned to the maintenance bench. Chrome fittings gleamed like trophies. One section sat darker, bolts scarred and black. A placard read, Manual pressure release unit decommissioned. He ran his thumb along the edge. He knew every dent by touch. Half a lifetime earlier, his hands had drawn its first sketch. The blueprint still lived where sleep should. Morning arrived with engines, radios, clipped commands. Hale faced the crew, sleeves rolled. Full demo for Chief Dalton. Automation only. Frank stayed in the shadows near the back. Screens woke and numbers danced. Pumps rose in a staggered chord of pressure. Chief Dalton came in with a raincoat on one shoulder. Make it sing, Lieutenant. Hale obliged, toggling subroutines like a pianist. Valves opened in crisp sequence. Flow graphs climbed into neat green hills. Applause rippled along the bay. Frank wasn't clapping. A pipe on the left wall shivered while its neighbors held still. A vapor thread slipped from a joint and vanished. Across the room, Lena Ward followed his stare. Her brow folded, but she said nothing. Knowing when not to talk is a skill. Hale narrated with practiced confidence. Legacy hardware removed. Manual bypass retired. Digital runs the house now. Frank drifted to the far panels. Behind them lay a forgotten casing furred with dust. He wiped it clean with his sleeve. Faint letters surfaced. Pressure Safety Unit Design. F. Danner. 1971. He stood still, years collapsing into a single breath. Then he folded the pinned blueprint and slipped it into his bag. Mr. Danner? Lena said. She had stayed while the crowd moved on. Everything okay? Just listening, he said. To what? To the part that isn't trying to impress anyone. Dalton's voice carried back. Wrap it up. Chemical storage test tomorrow. I want the place spotless. Hale brushed past and clapped Frank's shoulder too hard. We'll save a few knobs for you to polish. The smile came easy. Respect did not. Frank hung his wrench exactly where it belonged. Every tool in its place, the only courtesy steel believes. The lights dimmed toward evening. The station breathed slower, heavier. Frank lingered in the quiet after applause. He walked the bays, palm brushing pipes for temperature. One line ran warmer than the rest, vibrating at a pitch he didn't like. He made a note in his small book. Outside, Carson Ridge took the first rain. Wind probed the gutters. Inside, the building listened to itself. Frank stopped at the decommissioned unit. It let out a tired groan no screen would notice. It wasn't in the diagrams, but it still touched the main feed. He set his hand on the metal and felt a reluctant pulse in it, the kind that says I'm tired, not I'm done. Hold together, he whispered. When they need you, hold. A relay clicked under the floor, like a coin falling in the dark. He shut off his lamp, leaving pressure lines breathing in the dark. Tomorrow, they would laugh again. Tomorrow night, he would still be listening. In the hallway, Lena paused by a service hatch and listened too. She heard little and wrote much. Back at the bench, Frank checked his notebook one last time. Line 6, unstable tone. Line 2, thin flutter. He drew an arrow between them, a bridge no graph had drawn. He packed the notebook and tightened the bag strap. Rain hardened, finding every seam in the roof. The station answered with a soft chorus. At the door, he glanced at polished chrome, then at the dark, scarred valve no one valued. He chose where to put his faith. Frank killed the bay lights and stepped into the hall's dim. The building's pulse followed him, steady and private. Behind him, something in the network shifted, then went still. The storm kept time on the windows. Up in the watch office, rain drummed steady over Carson Ridge. Hale logged the demo as flawless and signed the checklist. Lena marked the shiver on her tablet with a quiet star. Down in the floor, the wine returned thin as thread waiting for attention. Rain clawed at Carson Ridge, turning streets into mirrors. Station 47 glowed in the downpour, a pulse of orange behind sheets of gray. Inside, the night shift dragged like fog, too calm, too neat. Lieutenant Hale leaned at the control console, coffee cooling at his elbow. All systems read perfect, every green light a promise. He tapped the screen with a knuckle. Even the weather can't shake her. Lena Ward worked at the next desk, earbuds dangling, logging maintenance notes. Downstairs, Frank was exactly where everyone expected him to be among the pipes. He didn't trust silence. It meant the station was holding its breath. The first alert came as a soft chime. FAULT, in Sector B. Hale barely looked. Sensor ghost. He reset with 2 fingers. The light went green. See? 21st century magic. Lena frowned. Same circuit that glitched this morning. Hale shrugged. Then the computer fixed itself. Below, Frank paused mid-step. A faint tremor rippled through the floor. He set his palm to the wall and felt the heartbeat wrong. A low thunk rolled through the bay, metal on metal. He twisted a gauge by instinct. The needle jumped where it shouldn't. He scribbled a note. Line 2 climbing. Feed delay 2.3 seconds. Outside, thunder growled as if agreeing. Second alert. Temperature spike chemical storage. Lena yanked out her earbuds. That's not a glitch. Cross-check thermal, Hale said, focus replacing the smirk. The numbers rose instead of slowing. Then the siren screamed. Every light went red. The system voice bellowed. Fire alert, West Bay. Chemical ignition detected. They ran boots on wet concrete. Smoke curling under the storage door. Hale hit the emergency panel. Activate suppression. The system thought, then flashed no pressure feed. What? Lena gasped. He slammed it again. Nothing, just alarms and static. Behind them, Frank's voice cut clean. It's dry. He stood in the corridor, soaked from rain, eyes sharp. The valves never opened. The automatic line's dead, and there's heart to the stocks the man. That's impossible, Hale barked. The computer. Software can't hear steel complain, Frank said. The building shuddered a deep rumble, like lungs overfilling. Overhead pipes began to sing. A thin, metallic wail. Hale stared at his wrist readout. It still says stable. Frank pointed up. Then your computer's lying. The words landed heavier than the alarms. Hale hesitated, then nodded. What do you need? Wrench, flashlight, and clear this floor. Hale keyed his radio. All personnel. Full evacuation protocol. This is not a drill. He met Lena's eyes. If Danner's wrong, we lose the building. If he's right and we don't evacuate. He didn't finish. They plunged down the stairwell. Smoke crawled after them. Water beaded at sprinkler heads. But no spray came, only air. The sublevel smelled of rust and oil. Pipes ran along the walls like veins under old skin. Frank tracked heat and vibration by touch. There, he said, crouching at a rusted wheel. The tag dangled. Bypass valve inactive. Lena lit it. This thing's ancient. It's also still connected. They just stopped checking. He traced the line. The skin of it burned his fingertips. When I say 3, pull the safety pin, he told her. How long to vent? Long enough to hurt if we're wrong. Hale's voice cracked over radio. Pressure 500 psi and rising. Talk to me. Hold the line, Frank said. We're opening the bypass. He gripped the wheel. The wrench bit and shuddered. Ready? Lena swallowed. Ready. 1. The air moaned through ducts. 2. The pipes rattled. 3. She yanked the pin. Frank drove the turn. The teeth skipped, then caught. A thunderclap of water tore through the network. Old pipes lurched awake after decades. Upstairs, sprinklers coughed, then burst into silver rain. Pressure dropping! Hale shouted. Lena let out one shocked laugh. Frank kept his hand on the wheel, feeling it settle under his palm. It beat like a heart calming down. Stay with it, he murmured. The gauge steadied not enough. We bought minutes, not safety, he said. What now? Lena asked. Secondary tank behind that concrete. Not in the new plans. Meaning? Meaning it's waiting to explode. They ran. The corridor trembled with trapped force. Dalton's voice hammered over radio. Evacuate surrounding blocks. If that tank ruptures, we lose half the district. Frank stopped at a sealed door stamped decommissioned access. He pressed his palm flat burning metal. This is it. Can we control it? Lena's voice wavered. We don't control fire. We make deals with it. He pulled the latch. The door shrieked open, furnace heat spilling out. Inside waited the oldest valve in Carson Ridge, his first design. It stood crooked, scarred, still breathing. Half the station's weight sat on that wheel. Frank touched it like greeting an old soldier. His eyes softened, then cooled. Let's wake her up. He turned. Nothing. Again. The line sang high. Rust cracked loose like breaking bones. The shaft jolted, then yielded. A backdraft roared through upper vents. Hail screamed through static. 30 seconds before that tank blows! Frank braced his knees and poured everything into one last turn. The wheel spun free. No blast, only a massive whoosh sucking fire backward. The tank exhaled instead of detonating. Steam rolled the corridors, hissing like applause. Water poured down stairwells, turning smoke to mist. The building breathed out. Lena dropped the flashlight, laughing and sobbing at once. Frank leaned on the wheel, trembling. Good girl, he whispered. You remembered. Hale's radio came alive, voice ragged. You did it. You actually did it. Not yet, Frank said. One more line. He eyed a rusted conduit glowing faint orange. Pressure loop is feeding itself. We need surface control, Hale replied. Command's patching to Reeve. Frank froze half a beat. That name hadn't lived in the air for 50 years. Tell him I'm still listening, he said. Lena stared. He gave a thin, smoky smile. The general will understand. The building settled like a giant sigh. Water fell from every floor. Above it all, the pipes sang an uneven lullaby, a song only Frank still knew by heart. The storm turned savage. Rain beat glass like artillery. Station 47's walls shook with each gust. Inside, alarms howled, lights stuttered, ozone stung the air. Frank stood by the ancient valve, face striped with soot. The wheel quivered under his grip. 5 minutes, maybe less, before the upper tanks reached lethal pressure. Lena crouched by the gauge. Seals are failing! Then we make them fail the right way, Frank said. He drove the lever. The line sang high, refused, then yielded by a whisper. Arteries long thought dead took water and steam in a roaring surge. A heartbeat of victory, then the vibration shifted, sharper, faster. The machine fought back. Hale's voice tore through radio. Frank! The floor is splitting. Not yet, Frank said, leaning in. Steam burst overhead. A white curtain swallowing the light. Bay 2 is dropping, Lena shouted. But the west feed is climbing. Secondary loop, Frank said. We'll bleed it by hand. He ripped off his gloves, raw fingers pressing to steel. He hunted rhythm in the noise. Behind pounding water he found it a low, uneven pulse. Left wall, behind the partition. Lena's beam found a sealed slab, rusted stencils, a faded label. Augs release FD7. She stared. Your mark. Built it for a day like this, he said, wedging a crowbar into the seam. Concrete cracked. Heat and dust spilled out. Inside waited a smaller valve, fused by time. He hovered, calculating. Turn it wrong and half the floor could blow. Long veil. Heat. Smoke. The 3 he couldn't reach. A radio half melted. Pull it, Frank! We're out of time! Lena snapped him back. What do I do? Steady the wheel with me. 1, 2, 3. They pulled. The valve shrieked, then broke loose with a thunder snap. Water punished the fire from inside the walls. The building shook but held. Hale came through faint. "Lines are live." "You did it." The gauge still crept upward. Digital pumps were forcing pressure back. "Hale, cut power to the digital regulator. That kills half the grid. Do it or this place becomes a crater." "Static." "He won't," Lena said. Frank tore the old brass badge from his coat, pressed it into her palm. "Find Dalton. Show him. Tell him the man who trained General Reeves says shut it down." "Trained what, General?" "Go." She ran, swallowed by smoke. Frank listened to the pipes, angry, tired, pleading. He tuned the wheel until the vibration aligned, steady for a breath. "Upstairs!" Hale burst into ops. Dalton was mid-argument with city control. "You want confirmation?" Hale snapped. "He's buying us minutes with his hands." Lena stumbled in, coughing, slammed the badge onto the desk. Dalton flipped it. "Engineer Corps, Fire Response Battalion F. Danner 1971. Dalton went pale. A photo from Reeves' office flashed in his mind. "Engineer Danner Long Veil Operation. Get me regional command," he said. A gravel voice answered. "Reeve." "Sir, Station 47 is failing. Volunteer engineer Frank Danner is inside." Silence. Then, "Repeat that name." "Frank Danner, sir. Patch me through." Immediately. In the basement, a voice stepped out of smoke and time. "Station 47, this is General Reeve. Who's on that valve?" Frank paused mid-turn. "Danner here, sir." A soft, disbelieving laugh. "You stubborn old devil still breathing. Working on it." Frank rasped. Reeves' tone lowered. "You remember Long Veil?" "Every night." "I still see it," Reeves said. 47 saved, 3 gone. I never forgot." "I remember the 3, Frank answered. "I know," Reeves said. "That's why you're still down there. But you don't owe them penance anymore." Steam blurred Frank's eyes. Something inside eased. "Not forgiveness, permission." "Understood, sir." Reeve to staff. "Cut the regulator, now." Switches clicked. Power grids dimmed across Carson Ridge. The hum of modern machines faded to silence. The pipes dropped a note from scream to breath. Lena reappeared, coughing. "They did it! System offline!" Frank smiled through soot. "Took them long enough." Creasier's laugh. Then the gauge spiked a last convulsion as the network purged. Steam jetted, bolts rattled. "It's going to blow!" Lena cried. Reeves' voice crackled faint. "Trust yourself, Frank." "Copy," he said. He pulled the final vent. A violent hiss. The needle plunged 700 to 500, then 4. Temperature fell, then leveled. Upstairs, red slid to yellow. "Containment stable." Hale breathed. Dalton sank into a chair. "Reeve on open channel." "Pressure nominal. System holding." "Softer." "You did it again, old friend." Down below, Frank released the lever and eased back. The pipes found rhythm, a steady, grateful pulse. Lena knelt beside him, tears cutting clean tracks. "It's over. There is no hurry." This time it listened, he said. He opened his notebook, wrote 3 words. "System held steady. Tell the general we're good." "You're coming too, right?" she asked. "In a minute," he murmured. "Just need to listen once more." She climbed the stairs. Frank rested his palm on warm metal. For the first time in 50 years, the rhythm didn't accuse him. It just breathed. Outside, rain hammered the roof, then softened. The pipes exhaled a last breath of steam. Station 47 stayed alive and quiet. Morning came slow to Carson Ridge. Steam lifted from blackened concrete. The station stood scarred but unbroken. Helicopters droned. Reporters whispered the same line again and again. Miracle at Station 47. Inside a canvas tent, beeps replaced bells. Frank lay under clean light, one arm wrapped, the other across his chest. The generator hummed. He preferred pipes. Lena sat beside him, hair tangled, eyes red. She hadn't left. When he stirred, she straightened so fast the coffee sloshed. "You're awake." "That depends who you ask," he said, with a thin smile. "You saved everyone. Then maybe the numbers finally balance," he said. She didn't ask which numbers. A doctor stepped in, quiet and precise. "He's stable, but there's nerve damage in both hands, no fine sensation. I'm sorry." When the tent hushed, Frank flexed his fingers. Nothing answered. The metal's whisper would never reach his hands again. He stared at them a long time, then breathed out. "Guess it's time to let someone else listen." Chief Dalton entered, raincoat dripping. General Reeve called. He's on his way. Still doesn't trust telephones, huh? He said a call wouldn't be enough. Dalton set a sealed letter on the tray. Commendation. Signed this morning. Frank didn't read it. He always could make paperwork sound heroic. Footsteps splashed outside. The tent brightened. General Thomas Reeve stepped in silver hair. Iron posture. A stillness old soldiers earn. They didn't salute. They didn't need to. Reeve placed a bronze plaque at the foot of the bed. In honor of Frank Danner, engineer, veteran, hero of Station 47. You never liked attention, Reeve said. Attention's loud. I prefer machines that whisper, Frank answered. Reeve smiled. And they listened. Long enough, Frank said. You could have died down there. I have, Frank said quietly. Just never on paper. Reeve set a hand on his shoulder. Rest easy, brother. You did your part. Just kept the water moving, sir. That's all I ever knew. Reeve's eyes shone, then steadied. He stepped out. Outside, firefighters stilled hats to chests, heads bowed a silence that carries farther than applause. Lena looked back at Frank. His eyes were closed now, breathing calm and even. His hands rested open, quiet for the first time in decades. He's not helpin' in not of men stand. A week later, the rebuilt bay gleamed. A rookie polished pipes until his reflection stared back. The plaque hung beside a new valve. Reeve stood with Lena and Hale. The system hummed, obedient, alive. Every machine needs someone who still listens, Reeve said. He taught me that, Lena replied. She placed her ear to the valve. At first, nothing. Then faint, steady the low hum of water through steel. I hear it, she whispered, smiling. Behind her, Frank's workbench stood spotless, every tool where he'd left it. Below the plaque, someone had etched a new line, and taught us to hear. The camera pulled back. Steam curled. Sunlight cut the haze. Beneath engines and wind, the pipes whispered again. A heartbeat of metal and memory, steady, alive, and lasting.